And we are live. So, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Me Too Sis podcast. I am your host, Ayla Shawn, and y'all, I told you the last time we are back with a new kind of way. The Lord has been giving some real good visions, and we just running with it. We're here, we're having a good time, and just allowing Him to do exactly what He wants to do. So that being said, I got some friends with me, y'all. I got some friends to have some good conversation. We are going to talk about how we are doing this thing and having the audacity to say yes and to keep going and building these dreams and these visions that God is continuing to download, right? And so I'm going to just introduce who I have with me today, and then we're going to get right into the conversation, okay? So these ladies are near and dear to my heart. They are sisters and friends and everything in between. And so I am super excited to have Miss Brittany Brooks and Miss Latrice Ginwright, and they are both powerhouses in their own way. So it was literally a no-brainer for them to be here and for us to chat. And so I'm going to introduce Britt, give her background, and then I'm going to give Latrice, and then we're going to get right into the conversation. So Brittany Brooks, she is a brave new voice living her purpose unapologetically out loud. Brittany is no longer living in silence, fear, or placing periods after grief and tragic losses. I know that's right. She said, let's keep going. Let's keep going. In fact, she trusts God to take the pain of losing her brother and the heartbreak of unhealthy relationships and flip it into purpose. She now understands her why and recognizes that God is fulfilling a greater work within her life. Brittany is an empowerment speaker by nature. Yes, she is. Y'all hear it in a minute. A purpose coach by lifestyle, a writer by passion, and the founder and author of Finding Love in Purpose, which is Flip. Brittany is also the CEO and founder of Yosi, make sure I said that right, Publishing LLC. Her company offers professional ghostwriting, book editing, publishing, and book coaching services to a diverse array of voices, including authors, entrepreneurs, influencers, and creatives. Listen, it's the multi-hyphenate friends for me. Yes, okay. Her work does not stop there though. Brittany is the creator and the host of the Finding Love in Purpose podcast. In this podcast, we learn how to grow in purpose, build our relationship with God, operate in fearless faith, and pursue our visions unapologetically. This podcast is available on all platforms, streaming in over 50 countries. Y'all heard it right, 50 countries and 400 plus cities in the United States. This is the amazing Brittany Brooks.
Hey, y'all.
So happy to have you here. Thank you so much for your yes and being on the platform with us here at the Me Too Sis podcast. And so we're gonna introduce my other good sis over here, because why don't we have the room full of baddies and full of multi-hyphenate women of God? Yes, because He said you could do it all. You could do it all. So Latrice Ginwright is the founder and CEO of her brand, God is My SuperpowHer, which is her podcast and merchandise line, again, multi-hyphenate. The focus of this brand is to bridge the gap between faith and culture by speaking to societal and relational issues that we face, to tie all of those experiences back to the principles of the gospel, because, hello, that's what we're here. It's still about the gospel. Let's point it back to Jesus. Hello. The Gems podcast has been ranked on Apple's charts and has been heard globally in several countries. Latrice launched her brand in February 2020. So listen, shout out to the pandemic businesses out here. Yes, because that's a real thing. And is continuing to flourish in her kingdom entrepreneurship. So without further ado, welcome Latrice Ginwright to the Me Too Sis podcast.
Hey sis, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be on with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you both. I 100% appreciate it. Like I said, both of these ladies are very near and dear to my heart. We have not only worship together, but we have really grown a friendship and a sisterhood and all of the things. And so I am so honored to have you all in this space now with the Me Too Sis podcast. And, we sharing podcast secrets, fun story. Brittany is actually the one who told me all the nitty gritty about the podcast, and she was the first one. She was actually the only one I had a conversation with about, like, I think God He's telling me to do this podcast, and what she do? Okay, well, here's the platform. This is what you need. I mean, like, immediately, it was no hesitation. It was none of that. She said, okay, what you need? Let's go. So listen, if you don't have friends like that in your circle, what you doing? What are you doing? Because we all have to push each other, right? So I am going to just get us started. And as I've shared, today's episode is called The Audacity to Keep Going. And so the way that this download came is that, like, I was just really in a space where the warfare was real, right? The warfare was real as I'm preparing and building yet another part of this vision that God has given me. And the week was rough. And I had to really fight through to get to making sure I can produce and, like, do exactly what God was calling me to do. And there's this song, it's called The Audacity by Tatiana Barnett, I believe is her name. And it literally was just playing in the car one day. And it was singing, I have the audacity to put one foot in front of the other, to keep going. And when I tell y'all that thing rang in my spirits, though, I said, oh, yeah, because, you know, the enemy will try to make us feel like, oh, well, you didn't get it right today, so just go ahead and throw the whole thing away, right? Or you messed up on this one time, so you're not really cut out for this, right? He'll start talking to you. And if you in a space long enough, you'll start believing it, right? And so this song came on and it spoke so much to my spirit, because I believe that we all have moments where we really have the decision between giving up and keeping going. And I'm like, and that's a big decision. When you decide to keep going, no matter what the situations say around you, when you decide to pick your books and bricks back up after literally the winds have knocked everything down, that's the audacity. Like, you have the courage to do that. And so he gave me just like this as a episode, but then he showed me both Brittany and Latrice, because I know they are both kingdom building entrepreneurs. And so we have all, again, had our own personal conversations, but I felt it was really timely that we all come and have this conversation. We sit at the table together, right? Because they have a perspective that I feel like we can all gain from. And so we're going to get right into it. We're just going to get right into it and talk about the audacity to keep going. And so any of you that are entrepreneurs or that are, that know God is calling you to do something greater, this is for you. This one is for you. So we want you to keep going, and this one is for you. So I'm just going to kick it off. And Britt, you can start, and then Latrice, and then we'll flip. Okay. So who are you? I know I just gave your bio, but anything that's not in your bio, who are you, and what do you have the audacity to build? What are you building?
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Lex, for having me on here. It is very divine. I feel like God is going to move greatly on this episode. Who are you? Before there was a bio, before there was a title, or even a gift, I've always been a daughter, and that has always stuck to me. And I speak to the ones that are listening now, because one thing I can say is I'm worthy, because I'm his daughter. I'm worthy of his love. I'm worthy of all the things, such as access, such as authority. And one thing I read something in Ephesians chapter 2, I think it was like verse 19, and it was talking about, one thing that stuck out to me was just like, you're of God's household. And so I'll just think about my natural father. When I go home and I go visit my parents, and especially when I visit my dad, I've already been given access. I have a key. And so there's a code that he's given me, right? And so I insert that code and I have access in the house. But everything in that household, I also have access. So whatever he has, right, inside or outside, that's mine. And so I think about it like that when it comes to who I am. Because for a long time I didn't feel worthy enough or valued. But God has to remind me, or He reminded me, like, look, you're my daughter. Because you're my daughter, you have access to me. You have access to everything that I've created and everything I've done. And so that's the first and foremost thing is me recognizing and knowing who I am, and I'm His daughter. And because of that, I have access, I have authority, and I'm of His household. And the beauty about it is, the household never lacks. It's always provision in that household. I can take whatever I need if I'm lacking. So that's the beauty about it. So I'll just encourage anybody, before there was anything, it was daughter. And so that's who I remind myself every day about. And so because of that, you asked the second ladder of the question, like, what do you have the audacity to build? Because I know I'm His daughter, I have the audacity to build anything. I can do anything. And there's no limits to that. And so I'm not going to even jump ahead of myself, but I'm just going to put it right there. Like, there's no limits to building anything. And the beauty about it is I can go, just like my natural father. He has a shed, he has different tools, he has a garage, he has all these things. And so whatever I need to build, I can go, I can access this room, I can access this portion, I can do that. So I'm a daughter. That's it. Point blank, period.
And period.
And period. Okay, a daughter and period. We need to put that on a t-shirt. Sis, we coming to you because we need that as a t-shirt. Next rollout.
Yeah. Yes. In addition, it's funny you said daughter, Britt, because as you were speaking, God just reminded me of who I am. It's like the word that I was going to say as well. And we're going to keep it in the family. I'm a sister.
Come on.
I am a sister. And in addition to being a daughter, I'm a sister. And the reason why that just highlighted so bold to me is because I remember going to a women's empowerment brunch. And at the brunch, everyone had, at their placement table, they all had like adjectives to describe them. And the host of the brunch asked us to read off what our word says. So I just so happened to sit at the seat. And when I looked at my word, it was sister. And God spoke to me so clearly in that moment and reminded me and told me, I want you to go forth in your gifting as a sister to these women. It's funny, your podcast, me too, sis. Listen, because at the end of the day, what He showed me and what He told me is that as a sister, I can meet you right where you are. Like, I can get right down in the mud with you. And that's what my brand is about. That's what my business is about. But that's also just who I am, period. Like, if you know me, I am one that is very relatable. I don't have a problem with being transparent and vulnerable and just talking to my sisters as girlfriends, like, so I run everything that I do. My business, my brand is operated as if you my good girlfriend, and we're gonna have good conversation. We sitting at the table and we chatting and chewing, and we just gonna talk. And so that's what I've built everything, like I said, my platform, my brand, and operating as a daughter, but also reminding myself that as I'm out here talking horizontally to people, I'm a sister, and so you can't try to exert yourself higher than, just meet them right where they are, because I know that He's called me and He's called my brand to speak to women. So in addition to, like you said, your question, sis, and what do I have the audacity to build? I have the audacity to build a brand that's authentic to me. Everything that I do is very authentic to who Latrice is, to what represents me, the things that I like. And so that's even down to my podcast, where I'm building a non-traditional brand where I am bridging the gap between faith and culture. I'm bridging the gap between secular things, but also allowing us to be able to see the goodness of it and merging it into having conversations that still reflect God. Because at the end of the day, that's what, God had to show me, that it's okay to be. I'm not going to keep you, like Brittany said, in a box. I'm not going to limit you. If He got me in this world, I'm a light to this world. So I'm not going to be afraid of the spaces that may, quote unquote, seem dark, or may, quote unquote, seem like the church doesn't want to go into. I'm not afraid to walk into those spaces and have conversations with different type of people. And so my brand is literally an authentic, symbolic brand of who I am.
Listen here, don't y'all hear it? We only on question one. Y'all already hear it, right? Because these are the people that the Lord has been so kind enough to put in my life. And they are absolutely, when I tell you, true to everything they have just said, I mean true from the moment that I met them to beyond, because this we locked in. We locked in, ain't no switching up. That's what they say, ain't it? Right? Locked in, ain't no switching up. And absolutely 100% love both of those, right? We are daughters and sons that are listening, right? We are first, we have to remember our sonship, right? He called us as his children. He adopted us into his family because he loved us that much, right? Like that's all access guaranteed pass right there. If you did nothing else, just knowing and understanding and accepting that you are his child, you can do anything. Literally, as Brittany said, you can do anything, but then you also get an opportunity to walk it out in the way that he uniquely designed you, your original design. And I feel like that sisterhood and brotherhood, right? We are all sisters and brothers in Christ, but beyond that, like, we are given the commandment to love each other. And how do we love, right? I know I'm a big sister. That's one of my most prized titles. You could take the rest of them, but as big sister, you can't take that from me, because I know what it means to really love and to give. And so I believe that sisterhood and brotherhood is just as important, because as God looks out for us, we have to look out for each other, right? It's a horizontal and a vertical kind of love. And so I love both of those answers. Thank you, ladies. And so in that, right, we want to talk about like what now let's getting into like our own unique individual walks and journeys. Again, knowing that, right, sometimes it gets hard, right? That sisterhood, it gets a little rough sometimes when we ain't quite seeing eye to eye. Or, you know, the daughterhood is like, okay, God, I hear you calling me, but I don't really know how to answer because I ain't never seen anything like this, or I'm not really sure because of my human relationships how to really trust you. So like, why are you calling me? Or how are you calling me? Where are you calling me if I haven't built that relationship? And so this is more so personal to you all's personal journeys. Why and what made you say yes to God? How did you get here to where you are in your personal relationship with him? We'll put the businesses to the side for a moment, but let's just talk about our own personal relationships. What made you give God your yes?
I'll go. For me, I just got tired of running. I realized that every time I tried to do things my way, oh child, it was a hard stop every time. It was like smack, smack, smack. And I just got tired of it. I really got tired of just going through the same cycle, the same circle, the different emotions that I was putting myself into. And so I just said, God, I yield. I just give it to you. I surrender. As much as I've been wanting to just be me, wanting to live in this me space and this free space, God said, I'm calling you higher. I'm calling you to a higher purpose. And you can't run from that, because everywhere you go, you're constantly reminded of who I created you to be. I'm literally always reminded of the influence, the just who God created me to be by different people. People always come up to me and just say encouraging things or empowering things or things that they have known of my spiritual journey. So they remind me, right? And so in regards to that, I just remember one day just driving in my car, literally going to work, and I was in tears crying. I was listening to Travis Green's CD Made Away. It's when when it first came out, and I literally just on my way to work in tears bawling, because I'm like, God, I need you. I need your presence. Even though I've been with him, I've been communing with him, like I faithfully go to church, but I felt like I just needed more. I needed more to understand about what he's called me to do, my purpose, because I was tired of feeling unsatisfied. I literally felt like I wasn't happy. I didn't have joy. You know how you can just walk around life and just you're functioning, but you're not present. And I felt like I was just going day by day by day, like winging it mentally and emotionally. And God was like, you can't keep living like this. You cannot keep living like this, until I did end up spiraling into a depression. And so in that state, God had to really like lift me back up and put me on solid ground and remind me of who he's called me to be, and say, you have to stop running, daughter. Like, you're constantly running And it wasn't like I was running spiritually, because again, my heart was always, I'm very serious about my relationship with God, but I was running in a sense of who he created me to be. It was like an identity crisis. Like I did not understand what he called me to do, who he called me to be. And so I'm trying to discover, while going through adulting, while going through these different transitions in life, discover who I am in this new season. And so literally he had to just reshape and remold me and help me to see, like, you're not that person anymore. You're not that girl anymore. This is who I've now created you to be, who I've called you to be in this season of your life. And I need you to walk it out boldly.
That's so good, Latrice. You mentioned something that I think I feel like that's been the consistency of this podcast, right? Like understanding your identity, who you are, not what the world says you are, not what mama says you are, not even what you said you are, but who did God create you to be? And I think sometimes we have those moments where we're going through the motions in life and we're just doing the things because they're the things to do. And he's like, yeah, but no, actually, I want you to see how they act, like how point A actually goes all the way through point Z, and they all make sense. They all align. They're not just you out here just trying to do stuff to do stuff. And a part of that, not even a part of that, but that is our full destiny. That is walking out our purpose, like your jobs and your relationships with your family and your businesses and all of the things, they should be linear, right? Your purpose should be able to show up in every single space that you enter, right? And so I just love that you brought that up about the identity. I mean, just really having to go through like the shedding essentially, right? Because you had to shed what identities you were carrying along the way in exchange for what God was saying about you from the very beginning before you even got to this earth, right? And so like having to relearn that requires relationship. It requires a renewal. So I just love that you brought that up, because it's, I mean, if I could put that on a t-shirt, it's like original design, because that's what he's calling us all back to. He's calling us back to that space so that we can not just live, but we can live abundantly, because again, that's a part of his original design. He said, I'll come that you have life and have it more abundantly, not, being in a depressive state for long periods of time and not just doing stuff again just because it's out here and it's tangible. But I want it to make sense, because again, I am the author and the finisher of your faith, and I am the one who writes your story, and he does all things well with the reason and with the purpose. So, okay, I'm not going to get on my soapbox. I'm going to let Britt go ahead and give, but that thing was good to me. I just love how it connected.
Yeah, it was good to me too. I had to put my hand on my hip because that was the that was literally what I was gonna say. Like, I just honestly, I just got tired of running. Like that song, She's a Runner, She's a Track Star. Like that was Brit, full speed. I was just like, I'm not going to do this. I was running because I was afraid, running because I thought that I was not good enough to be in certain rooms. I was running because I didn't think my voice mattered. Another reason why I ran is because, and as Lex shared in my bio, like, after, you grow up in church, you've seen everything. And then my faith was shaken, after my brother passed. And so after that, I was like, you know what? Have this caller, have this calling, have everything. I don't want it anymore. And I just ran. But then I got to a point where I got tired, because even though I was running, he still didn't stop speaking to me in my dreams. He was still leaving voicemails like, hey, I got this for you. Hey, I need you to fulfill this purpose. Hey, I need you to write this or do this. And so he's like, I'm calling you to another level. But I felt in those moments as I was running, I ran because I'm like, I'm not worthy enough for this. And a lot of times that's what we do. And I don't know if y'all remember, if you ever seen this movie, but it's like Forrest Gump, right? And there's a scene in there where he just started to run for thousands of miles, right? He's just running. But then he gets to a certain point and he stops and he says, you know what? Turns to everybody, I think I'm going home. I'm going to go home. And that's how I felt. It's just like, you know what? I'm tired of running. I'm going back to purpose. He's calling me. I can't shake this thing. And so for me, that's where my yes came from. It's just like, you know what? God, I trust you with this yes. I know this yes is not going to hurt me in the way that the enemy makes me feel like it's going to hurt. But I do trust you with this yes. I yield to this yes. I honor this yes. I will stay planted in this yes. And then until you tell me to move, I won't move. And so I agree and, wholeheartedly what you said, Latrice, about just, we just get tired of running. And I know for me, I had my own plans and own agendas and everything. I was running to those things, but I wasn't running toward what God really wanted me to run towards. And I know when I ran to those other things, I was messing up, right? If I do it myself, I'm gonna mess up. And so God's like, run towards me, run towards purpose, run towards what I have for you. And there you're gonna find everything.
So good. I think those are, I mean, when we have these conversations and everybody has their own journey as to why and how they ended up to say, saying yes to God. But I think it's clear, and I think it's safe to say we all had those moments where we just got tired. It's like, you know what? I can't do this no more. I can't do this no more. And not even that I can't do it, but I don't even want to, right? Like literally fighting the fight so long that we are cleared out, exhausted. And it's like, okay. But yet and still he's there. He's not pointing fingers. He's not like, I told you so. He's not any of that. He's just like, okay, you ready to come home? All right, let's go. Right. And one of my new favorite songs is Jealous by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin. But I love the songs You Are a Jealous God, but at the end, when he talks about my favorite line is you gave me a robe and a ring, when he's talking about the prodigal son. Like you love me so much that even though I went my way, I went and did all the things, I tangled and loved everybody else but you. But yet and still, you didn't throw me away. You gave me a robe and a ring. And that, when I tell you that song, every time that song comes on, it tears me up, because I just think about like, God, you not just love us enough to say, I'm keeping you from death, hell, and the grave. But now I'm gonna lavish you with the good things. I'm gonna give you a robe and a ring because you've decided that you now want to come home. And so that's how great of a welcome gift is that? After all of the things we've done, he's still like, let's go. I want to give you the best of the best of the best, right? And so just we could have 5 episodes and more on just his kindness, because he's really that dope. So with that, I think we have, right, when we think about our purpose, when we think about the assignments that God has called us to, we've gotten to our yes. We've gotten to, okay, God, we're going to do it your way, not our way, though we know that's a constant conversation. Like, okay, is this me? Is it you? Right? So having those constant conversations. But I want to hear from you all, like, when did you decide, or when did you have the audacity to believe in yourself, to take the first step into the purpose, into the assignments that he called you to? So what did that look like? What was that first step when you said, I'm going to believe in what you said about me, God, and I'm going to take the first step?
For me, I think I did the natural thing. So I remember listening to Steve Harvey, and then Steve Harvey he came out with a book about, success and your gifts and stuff. And so in his book, I was reading about how he said, if you are trying to discover what your gift is, go to people in your village and your community and ask them. And so I had just reached out to people that I knew that I could trust, that were near to dear in my heart. And I asked them, I said, God, because I already was having conversations with God about what my purpose is. What are you calling me to do? And I still was just unsure, but I knew by reading the book, because you got to do sometimes the spiritual with the natural. Go and ask people, what do they see in you? What can you identify as a gift in me that you have when you've been around me? And so I've reached out to different people, whether in my professional space, like those that I used to work with, those from college, close friends and family, and they all really said similar things. They all kind of just it all aligned. And so in that, I took what they gave me and I prayed into it. And as I prayed into it, Holy Spirit showed me, like, I want you to go speak, and I want you to do events, and I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And so I just started putting myself in these different spaces to learn, to grow. And so, and then he eventually showed me, because I was watching The Breakfast Club one day, and it just highlighted, like, that's the way he wants me to speak, is to get on a podcast. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to be on the radio right now, but I could start my own talk show. I could start my own show. Let me get a podcast, because it was still fairly new, and I can bring people on and I can interview them. I can talk to them. And so that was a conglomerate of just how he showed me, like, what my gift is, how to operate in this purpose. And I just took that. I just did the natural thing by reaching out to people that were in my community, because you're going to get in your time and your prayer time with God. And again, it's not like God's not speaking. He's showing you, but you're second guessing yourself anyway. Sometimes you just need confirmation from other people to confirm what God already didn't say it long time ago. And so, because I was getting the prophetic words, I got the prophetic messages from people at church to say, I'm calling you to do this. You're going to be a non-traditional evangelist. So what does that look like, God? Oh, non-traditional evangelist? My podcast is heard all over the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the way that God has called me to evangelize and to minister his gospel in this way. And so I just had to go tap into people, like I said, in my community, and they helped ignite what God was already showing me and talking to me about.
That is so good. Like, Trees, you in the vein today, girl. Can we all just give her a hand clap, because she's in the vein? It's hard sitting still when somebody is like saying everything that your heart is saying. And I know for myself, like, when God gives you something, especially when it's something you have never done before, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold up, player. Like, hold on, I don't know what to do. But I think what helped me to get to that first step was knowing that what makes me different from anybody else, he's blessed. It goes back to that whole daughter. It goes back to that whole sister. Like, what makes me any different where God cannot bless me, where he cannot provide for me? And so one thing he told me was, when I was building out this publishing company, I didn't know anything from Adam, right? But the thing is like he said, build it and they'll come. So I just started building. And as I'm building, that's when I was connecting myself, like you said, Trees, with people. I started to get mentors, right? I don't know it, but let me reach out to the experts that do, right? I started putting myself in rooms with the experts, listening to the conversations, learning the language of that business, learning the language of that room, and building out my pitch. So these are things, and as God was placing mentors in my life, that's when I began to learn even more and even grow into more. So that first step is really, really the mindset, I feel like, because getting yourself out of feeling like you can't do it, but then flipping it and saying, what makes me different from anybody else? He's blessed others. Why can't he bless me? Why can't he provide for me? Why can't he put me in certain rooms or match me with certain mentors? So I feel like that was my first step, to just get out that mindset. And then after that, started to build it. And as I was building, that's when things would start popping up, or, hey, go to this seminar. Hey, I think you need to go to this. And I just began to connect with just different, like Tree said, the community, putting yourself out there and with the experts. And then everything just starts to flow. But it all happens with your faith.
So rich and good. And I want to double tap on all of those, because yes, definitely your community and your mindset. And Britt, I think you said something super, super powerful, right? Like, what makes me different than anybody else that he's blessed? Like, why wouldn't he pick to bless me if I've seen him bless everybody, right? Like, and when you ask questions like that, which are seemingly simple, but when you actually hear it out loud, it's like, well, I guess now that you say it like that, yeah, God, you're not that. That's not your character, right? Like that's not a part of your character. And we hear it all the time. When he blessing one, that means he in the neighborhood. So that means he gotta hit my house at some point, right? And I love that so much because the mindset is the keeping you there, right? Like the believing enough to stay there, and the belief enough to keep going. Again, that audacity, that courage to like, okay, no. This may be a challenge, but I'm supposed to be here, right? This may be something I've never done, but God, if you said it, you are not a man that shall lie. So therefore, it must happen, right? And I think I have a combination of both of you all, like hearing the words, hearing, like, oh, you're supposed to, go speak, have a mentor, be this mentor and this coach, and all the prophetic words on loudspeaker, on quiet, all of the above, right? But also, the one thing that changed the game for me was actually at the end of 2022, and I've been taking the steps and like, okay, God, if you say it, but it was more so okay, God, if you say it, I'm going to do it just out of obedience instead of I'm going to do it because I believe it and obedience, right? Because there's a difference. I'm just doing it, and there's the reluctancy, but no, I want to do it out of obedience because I believe what you said about me, right? And so I received a prophetic word, and it shook me to my core. And it was a full thing, but he said, you can no longer be in the background because it's an insult to heaven. And that thing shook me to the core. It wasn't talking about all of the assignments that I was supposed to do, all of the visions he said, you can no longer be in the background because it's an insult to heaven. I'm sorry, what? Right? Not only am I being, fearful, but my fear was also making me insult what God has said. And I never, ever, ever want to be in that space. And so that was that like chin check for real. Like, so you're going to respond or we're going to have bigger fish to fry later on. Right. And that was the switch for me, because I'm like, not only God, am I not giving people what you put down on the inside of me to give, but I'm also not giving you the glory and the credit that's due to your name, because I'm not showing and showcasing, God, what you put down on the inside of me, right? And so that was my aha moment. Like, yep, okay, you got it. It's here. You got to do something, and do it now. Do it quickly. And soon as I agreed with what God said, when I tell you this stuff has been like off the charts, flying, and he's like, all you have to do is just believe what I said. All you have to do. And sometimes that all you have to do does take a lot of gut, does take a lot of audacity, but it's one of the best things you can ever do, is to believe what God has said about you. Because again, he is not a man that shall lie, and it won't return void, and it won't be half done. He's gonna exceedingly abundantly that thing, right? So thank you, ladies, for sharing on that, because I think it's important for people to hear, right? Like how we take that first step, how we go into what God is saying, build, when we've never seen it, when some of us are the trailblazers and are the pioneers, we're the generational curse breakers, all of these amazing titles and things. But it's like, I just need to know how to take the first step. And it's that mindset shift. It's that mindset shift. And so in that, now that we've taken a few steps, right? We've taken a few steps since the first one. What has been the hardest lesson that you've learned or that you've dealt with by building God's way? What's been one of the things that's been your thorn in your side, if you will, by building God's way?
I would definitely say two things. One being relinquishing my control. Child, let me just breathe for a moment. Relinquishing my control. Like, how am I telling the builder how to build, right? How am I telling the architect of my life, this is what you need to do? This is, whatever. And so that's been a hard thing for me. And he knows me because I'm that type. I need instructions. I need the whole plan, the blueprint, all the stuff. Who working what, But for me, I think that's been the hardest lesson for me. And then another one is removing the limits. and building outside the confines of your limitations, like building outside of that, building outside of your fears, building outside of your plans, your agendas, and even your own will. And I say that to say, it has been a hard lesson for me because, sometimes we can put limits on our pricing. We can put limits on the structure of our business and how it should function. I'll put it this way: we like to sometimes think small scale, and I'm like, how do you think small scale when we have a big God, right? And so for me, that has been the hardest lesson. He had to check me. Was like, look, if I've given you a big vision, don't just dream or even build on a low level and just think, okay, I'll just put a cap on this area, or I'll put a cap here. But he's taught me that, hey, you don't have to do that. If I've given you something big and I'm a big God, then trust and believe there's no limitations, right? So I had to really learn how to remove those limitations, relinquish my control, and say, okay, I'm gonna let you have your way. I'm gonna trust you. It's just like when you driving in the car with somebody, you in the passenger seat, you trying to tell somebody how to drive. I've done it before, y'all. Like, oh, hold on, but
Look, me too, sis. Me too, sis.
but it's like, I'm like, look, I'm going to let you drive this, or even, clearly I love to travel, but even when we're on a plane, how are we gonna knock on the door and be like, hey, you taking too long to land, or hey, what's taking so long? Like, we got to relinquish that control, trust the expert, trust the master, the architect of our lives, and allow him to do what he does. And sometimes he tells us, take a seat. I got this. But then there's other times where as he's telling us to build, remove those limits, because sometimes we can box ourselves in, and we can think so small that we, I would say, I don't want to say psych ourselves out of it, but more so we'll talk ourselves out of what is for us. And so there comes that word again, the audacity. You got to be fearless when it comes to just building, and just even in the learning and the lessons. So
Yeah. And like you said, Britt, and the lessons, just having courage, like you said, the audacity to be able to even overcome it. Because you're going to go through lessons, you're going to go through trials, you're going to go through the trial and error. It's inevitable, and I think sometimes that fear of failing or that fear of messing up or making a mistake we can psych ourselves out of just going through the process, right? And so I have to even tell myself that and encourage myself a lot of times to say, Treese, you don't got to know everything. You don't got to be perfect. It's a part of the process. Like, give yourself grace in it. But to answer the question, I absolutely was going to say the control. I don't know if that's a Black woman thing or what, but or a single woman independent, but I getting rid of the controlling attributes of myself, because I absolutely want to be, all hands on and the captain of my own ship and realizing like, no, you're not. God is the CEO of all of this. And let me pull back, let me fall back. And for me, it was the uncertainty of it. Like, I don't really like not knowing. I'm naturally a person that, one, I have really good discernment. God always shows me things anyway. So when it be coming down to like about people, he always can show me stuff good about people. But when it comes to myself, he be giving me like, I'm like, God, where is the clue? I need the insight. Like, I need give me the next step. And he don't be working with me that way. So it's always the uncertainty for me, but that's where faith kicks in. You just got to trust them. You got to know that, like you told Abraham, I'm telling you to leave your father's house and go to a land that I promised you. With no instruction is literally like, okay, we in this journey together, God. But if I could give a different answer, because Britt, you already, you said it, the control. I would say timing, like making sure you don't go outside of God's timing in your business and your purpose, whatever God is calling you to do. Because I did that once. And again, it's a part of the process, and I had gotten into a brand deal with someone that it was a good learning lesson, but it was a hard lesson because it was something that I was really looking forward to. It was a contract that I had signed to put my podcast into this network. And I'm thinking that it's going to like take, my podcast to the next level and I'm going to start monetizing and all of the things. And there was just real friction between me and the person that was on that network. And it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be. And I ended up, just saying, this is not the timing for it. Because at the end of the day, when you remove like, I like to still be hands-on with my podcast. I'm very much a person that like, this is my baby. And so when you now sign your stuff over, it's kind of like you don't really get to have rights and say so about X, Y, and Z. It's kind of like an artist. Why most artists today like being independent. Because once you sign that 360 deal, it's all of the different things that go into that, right? And so I realized like, it's going to be time. Someday I can do all the automation and let other people, I can go on the network and do all of the things. But right now I like what I do. I like this because, they were trying to change aspects of my brand and take away from the authenticity of what God gave me. And so timing is important, and it could be a hard lesson sometimes because every good thing is not a God thing. Even if it's a godly person, even if it's a Christian relationship, it may not be the timing. An attraction can be a distraction. So I have learned to just put the pause on some stuff and trust who God created me to be, trust in the brand that he's given me, and trust his timing in it all, and not do things because it's exciting or it sounds good.
That's good. Listen, Trish, you about to have all the sound bites out here because, baby, an attraction is a distraction. That is so good and so rich and so real. And who child, we don't even have enough time to divulge in that. But yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, and yes, ma'am. I love both of what you shared because I don't think we're sisters and friends for no reason because we deal with some of the same stuff, right? So I won't even go into detail because y'all hit it nail on the head. Just trusting God, and that encompasses all of those things. Relinquishing the trust. Relinquishing the control of the timing. So yes, that was yummy to my soul and my spirit. So we have time for 2 more questions, and then we're gonna wrap up. And so on the flip side to the hard lessons, what are some of the benefits that you all have reaped or that have seen by being kingdom-minded entrepreneurs?
I would say for me, the favor, right? Just God's favor. He's going to put you in rooms. He's going to make your gift. Like he's going to put you in rooms where your gift, it can be expanded, can expound. And for me, I've been able to see like literally him operating the gift that he's given me. I've been in plenty of rooms. I've been around great men and women of God, and it's given me so much favor, whether it's business relationships, whether it's opportunities, whether it's literally just people calling me like, hey, you in town? I want to invite you to this X, Y, and Z. Like it literally stuff for free. And just great relationships, being able to build great relationships with people. And that's nothing but the favor of God. Favor can get you things that money can't. And so I feel like for me, I've been able to see his hand on the things that I do. And he's literally like orchestrated every step along the process. And so I've just been able to say, okay, God, thank you for favor. Thank you for the resources. Thank you for the relationships, great relationships, just like with you all, building great relationships with people. And so that is a benefit because I know that I can trust him concerning me, like everything concerning me is going to be good. And so I don't have to really worry about, is this person good for me or is this a good thing or not? Like I just literally just follow his lead, and he always aligns, things according to his plan.
That was so good. I agree with you on the favor part, Trees. Also, another thing is, in the beginning of this year, I started to switch up my prayer. Because once he gave me the vision, it's just like, so how can I pray over this thing? Like, how can what is this going to look like? And so the prayer that I was praying was, God, put my name in the minds of CEOs, put my name, and I want whoever's listening to do this, but put my name in the minds of a CEO or CEOs, thought leaders, business leaders, and put my name in the wind, as our pastor so eloquently said. And when he said that, I like screamed, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's confirmation. But it's amazing how, and it goes back, I'm going back to that daughter thing, when we have authority. And so when I started to pray that prayer, and of course, you don't see things right away, but just because you don't see it doesn't mean that he's not working behind the scenes, right? So I'll give you just a quick story. Because I started praying that prayer, back in May, I'm gonna give one example. Back in May, I, took a faith move. I went to TD Jakes, like ILS, right? And he also had this thing called Good Soil for entrepreneurs. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going by myself, me and my faith, and we're gonna do this thing. And so I didn't know anybody, but I was just telling God, that prayer again, put my name in the minds of CEOs, thought leaders, business leaders, whoever. And so I was praying at the beginning of this year. So when this happened, um, the thing that I love the most is how God he just does things that just will blow your mind. And so I'm in the room, and there's this lady that's sitting behind me, and she taps me on the shoulder, and we start talking, right? So I give my pitch, give my little pitch or whatever of what I do. And she was like, oh, wow, by the way, I've been looking for someone. And so we just got into this conversation about like writers and editors and who she's looking for and different things. And so we recently had a conversation sometime earlier this month. And as we were talking, she opened up even more, and she was like, hey, basically the reason, she was like, I don't know if I told you, but God told me to tap you. And I was just listening. She was like, God told me to tap you because you were the answer to what I need. And so the thing is, it's like God will put your name in the minds of CEOs, thought leaders, business leaders. I feel his anointing right now, y'all. Whew. But I want to encourage somebody, because like I said, it goes back to what we said. You have authority, you have power. Your name is in the wind. But sometimes, even stretch that prayer even more, and like, God, my name is in wind. Let the right people catch that name. Let the right person receive that. And I met some other people as well, people that I didn't even expect to even meet or sit by. But it's because of, like you said, Treese, just the favor of God that's resting upon you. And with your favor, my name is attached to favor. And so because I'm saying God put my name in the minds of those people, or put my name in the wind, once they receive it, this favor already attached to that thing. And so for me, I'll just say to anybody, and I encourage you, switch up your prayer. Once you know who you are, whose you are, to start saying that, like, God, I thank you for putting my mind, putting my name in this person's ear, or putting my name in this entertainment industry. God, I thank you, and the right person is going to grab it. And so I just encourage anybody to do that. But that is a benefit, something I've just a prayer, just that prayer alone, I've seen the shift, and I've seen things happen.
Mighty God, today and tomorrow and forever, because yes, and yes again. He literally says, like, he withholds no good thing from us. And favor, and just like that's enough in itself, right? And just being able to trust that not only can you pray the prayer of confidence, right, coming to his throne boldly, but you can also believe and bet the money that you have, and the money that's coming on the way, that he is going to blow that request even out of the water. And so that's so good, and I think it's so important to hear, right, like not only just the challenges, but there are also benefits by building God's way. When he gives it to us and we really do our earnest job and our earnest effort to build it the way that he says it, he's not asking us to have all of the steps. He just wants to make sure, he just wants to know that you trust him to take the steps. And he is going to do the rest. Literally, he is going to do the rest better than what you can even imagine, right? And so thank you both for sharing that, because I think it's those benefits that also keep us going. That also gives us the audacity to say, no, he blew my mind the last time. So now I want to see how he gonna up it, right? It's almost like how you gonna beat the last time? Right? And I think that's the beauty and the dope part about really partnering with God. The last episode was about partnership with God. And this is what you get by partnering with him. He's like, just take the one step, and you take A, I got B through Z. That's it. Like, you take A, I got B through Z. So both of those are spot on and amazing. So this is the last question, and that I want you to tell the folks how they can find you, how they can connect with you. But what is one thing that what piece of encouragement would you give to somebody who is either building a kingdom-minded entrepreneur, or stepping into where God is calling them to be? What is one piece of encouragement you would give them today to help them push even further to where God is calling them?
So how can you connect with me? So first and foremost, BrittanyNBrooks.com. You can go to my website. Everything is there. BRITTANY, the letter N, Brooks, BROOKS.com. And it's also the same for my social. So I try to stay consistent with that. So you can find me on Instagram at BrittanyNBrooks, also as well as on Facebook. And then, of course, if you go to my gram or even on my website, you can also look at podcast stuff, information about that, as well as Yosi Publishing. So if you want to publish a book, it's that time to do it. Hit up your girl. But the thing I would say, the advice I would give and it may sound cliche, you probably heard it over and over again, but one thing I would give to you is don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. And the reason why I say that is because you can be closer than you think, and the enemy will try to stop you in that process. And then it could be just your next step could be the very yes that you need. That next blog could be the very person that needs to read it, and all of a sudden, you're getting a call. That next reel that you need to create, the right person will see and say, hey, you know what? I need to put you on this panel, right? Don't stop. And so I just want to encourage someone that whatever you're building, whatever you're trying to create, whether it's content, whether it's a book, whether it's a show, a podcast, it doesn't matter. You don't know what could happen. You're one yes away, right? And so if you stop building, if you stop creating, then you're not going to be able to reach who you need to reach in that time. And we always have to move, like Tree say, in God's timing. And so be consistent in that timing. Because once you're consistent, I'm telling you, the right person, all you need is one yes. I done seen so many people blow up on social media these last couple of weeks just by one post that changed the trajectory. And so you're one post away, you're one blog away, you're one book away, you're one episode away. Like, don't stop and keep going. Don't look at the numbers. Don't look at, all you need is the right person. Like I said, you have the audacity to pray that prayer. God, put my name in the wind, and trust and believe when you post something, the right person is going to receive it. And then there you go. That's all you need is one yes. And that one yes is his. And then, of course, he's going to give you the rest and connect you to the rest of the people. But that's all I got. If I could give any encouragement, is do not stop, because you're only one thing away. You're one yes away.
And to piggyback, that was so good, Britt. That was so good, Britt. I have two things. One is do it afraid. do it afraid, something that I have to tell myself all the time. God told Joshua 3 times to be courageous. He said, be strong and courageous, be strong and courageous. And the third time, he told him, and be very courageous. And I believe that he told him that because he already gave Joshua the fulfillment. He said, you're going to be the person, the leader, to take these people into the promised land. And so if I put it in you, you can do it. Be strong, because you're going to have opposition come your way. You're going to have all of the things come your way to try to discourage you along this journey of just trying to get the promise to come to pass. But you have to be strong spiritually, be strong mentally, emotionally, and where you are weak, he will make you strong. And then you have to be courageous in it. Why did he tell Joshua to be courageous? Because he's going to get scared sometimes. He was going to get scared. You're going to be afraid a lot of the ways. Like along the journey, it's a lot of uncertainty, and you just not going to know. You're not going to have the answer, and you have to trust God. But it takes great courage to do so. The second thing is be uncompromising. Do not compromise on the thing that God called you to do, on the vision. Stand firm and know that what God told you to do, what you know in your knowing. People told me plenty of times I should change the name of my podcast. And I said, no, I'm not changing the name because God is in the name. If I bring it and try to minimize it down to man's standards because, oh, this is going to get it to go, the algorithm is this and this and that. No, God's name is already famous. I don't have to do anything else other than standing on what God told me to do. I'm not changing it. So be uncompromising. It's your vision. It's what God called you to do. And you have to trust in the fact that you have a relationship with God. You hear from God. You see. And so stand on that. Don't matter what man and politics and all of the things are trying to make you do to fit their standard. We don't fit the world standards anyway. So you can follow me on social media at God is my superpowHer. It's GODISMYSUPER, POWHER. And my website is godismysuperpowher.com. I'm going to send that to you, Lex, so you can put it in your show notes as well. And you can follow me personally on my Instagram at Owner of Gems.
Thank you both. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait. I cannot wait because I know God is literally, he's already breathed on this. And so it's going to, he putting this in the wind. Okay. And it is so. And it is so, not for our own good, but because somebody out here needs this. And so I am so grateful for both of you all taking the time out to share your story, to share how God has kept you and how you have the audacity to keep going. And so I 100% appreciate you and I love you both. And so for all of you all who are out here, definitely keep going. Have the audacity to keep going. No matter what your circumstances around you are telling you, you are called by God, and that's the only one you need to answer. Keep going and do not stop, because there's a kingdom that he is calling us to build, and we are better together. So let's lock arms and let's do this thing. And so, as you all know, this has been an amazing time. Thank you again for tuning in for another episode of the Me Too Sis podcast. And remember, when you keep God first, you glow. And when you glow, baby, you win. And so until next time, we will see you later. Bye.